Welcome to my channel Sella Buzz. Andre Rieu had everything, and enormous fortune castles may compete with rock legends for kings and queens, and arenas in all throughout the world. However, behind all of the sparkling, glittering costumes, there were standing ovations and lights. Tale no one anticipated. Andre constructed a $40 million empire from only classical music. Unheard even for today's biggest pop performers. However, why would this enormous wealth eventually become the primary cause of tears rolled down his dearest friends' faces? Relatives. Andre wasn't wealthy at first. He was only a child growing up, and he adored music. His father served as the leader of the music was performed by the Emmerich Symphony Orchestra, constantly present and a part of his life. However, Andre was aware early on that he had no desire to sit in silence in a stuffy performance space. He had a desire, larger, noisier, and far more thrilling. He wanted everyone to jump, clap, and sing out of their chairs, and step by step, Andre built just that. In 1987, Andre took a massive gamble that would either make him a legend or ruin him forever. The Johann Strauss Orchestra was created by a small group of people playing quietly for courteous cheers, but a stunning powerhouse in entertainment. What began with only 12 musicians swiftly blew up to more than 60 artists from various of the world. Andre wasn't a mere player. Traditional waltzes. He performed filled to overflowing with Strauss at the Mac Arena, classics. Additionally, it worked. Fans adored it. The tickets were quickly sold out, shelves, and before long he wasn't simply theaters. He was packing the whole stadiums and arenas around the world. Cash flooded in more quickly than anyone had anticipated. By the early 2000s, Andre wasn't merely prosperous. He was outselling massive acts like AC/DC, Bruce Springsteen, and Coldplay. His performances brought in millions of dollars each. His DVDs blew off the shelf at night in all nations. Thousands of fans traveled, of miles paid exorbitant fees, and applauded as though they were attending rock concerts. Andre's empire was flourishing, and his fortune expanded significantly, making him the wealthiest musician on the planet. But Andre didn't discreetly conceal his money in the bank. Rather, he invested funds in making spectacles that are more larger. He risked nearly all he owned in 2008, owned by creating an astounding $30 million stage for his performance in Sean Vienna's Brunn Palace. It appeared to be a fairy tale encrusted with crystal, gold, and extravagant details, just what fans had a dream about seeing Andre Rieu. However, he nearly lost that fantastic tale. Everything. The enormous expense forced him to the verge of bankruptcy, almost eradicating out decades worth of profits in a single day. Andre had before taken chances, but this one almost broke him. However, unwilling to give up. Gradually, concert after Andre climbed back after the show, paying off his obligations and transforming his presentations into even greater achievements. In a few years, his wealth had increased, and he was bouncing return more intelligent and powerful. He extended his performances to international movie screenings, live streaming performances in theaters across the globe, earning millions more. Fans, who were unable to go to see him, people flocked to movie theaters, paying top dollar costs to feel the thrill on the large screen. Andre's fortune did not simply bounce back, it doubled, and then increased to an astounding $40 million by 2023. However, Andre did not create his wealth by itself. His relatives were present from the beginning, particularly his spouse Marjorie, who was not only his partner at all. Marjorie created the outfits and assisted select locations and organized the spectacular stage settings that rose to fame globally. Collectively, they created each show that will be remembered, generating an entertainment conglomerate that turned into a real family-run company. Pierre, their son, even assumed a significant role and turned into a Vice Andre Rieu Productions president, transforming the entire process into a musical of sorts dynasty. Andre's performances were renowned, but he never lost sight of his origins. He survived in a fortress constructed in Maastricht, 1452. A real castle indeed. This wasn't typical mansion. It was the renowned site where D'Artagnan of the Three Musketeers' last meal was before dying in combat. Andre had a dream about possessing it since childhood, and now he did. He spent millions remodeling every square inch, transforming it into a fantasy palace brimming with valuable artwork, gardens that sparkle, and chandeliers that suited for fairy tales. It was similar to something from a film, with the exception of Andrew was experiencing it daily. Despite everything, Andre didn't slow down despite his fortune. He continued to tour and increase his gigs, continuously from America and Europe to Japan and Australia. Every year, his tours expanded, his audiences larger, and his wealth increased. He was no longer only a musician. He was a superstar. A key, worldwide occurrence whose brand became unstoppable. Machine that generates income. Not quite yet. In spite of Andre retained all the elegance and splendor, baking is one unexpected habit. In the course of the 2020 lockdown with canceled performances and the disappearance of millions in ticket sales, Andre did something overnight, unanticipated. He began making cakes, distributing them to nearby residents. It wasn't ostentatious or flamboyant, simply human lovely reminder of kindness that lies behind. The enormous empire was a man who continues talkerished simple pleasures and community. However, Andre's money had more to it. He was essential to Andre's empire, performing continuously. Additionally, when he fell ill with a serious ear infection in 2010, everything almost fell apart. Once more. Physicians were shocked that he hadn't become ill earlier, considering how demanding he had a schedule. For the initial overtime, his family came to understand how this luck was brittle. Everything they constructed relied solely on Andre's health. One tour was canceled due to illness, might immediately cost them millions. That there was a lot of strain, but Andre recovered and continued on, declining Toto reduced speed, resolved to maintain the money flowing in the music. However, the stress increased. While admirers noticed a happy Andre is playing with ease behind the scenes, the family found it difficult to overseeing a business empire valued in tens of millions, with unknown risks rolling. Every amazing performance was a gamble, requiring set designs that cost millions, marketing, musicians, and venues. Any failure might put everything in jeopardy. Andre constructed. Then another hidden secret. Andre's money wasn't simply in concerts. He had been quietly constructing a vast portfolio of real properties, spending millions on luxury properties in Europe. Fans were aware regarding his Muric Castle, although few were aware of the extent of his property empire's become. Muric Castle wasn't just some arbitrary mansion. Its past was quite serious. Connected. In 1452 it was constructed, belonged to Castelmour, owned by Charles de Bat d'Artagnan, the inspiration from real life back of the renowned musketeer from the Three Musketeers. However, when Andre initially saw it wasn't particularly opulent here. At the age of 6, he entered for the first time, too old to take piano lessons. And believe me, it wasn't immediately a love affair. The location was gloomy, crumbling, and somewhat eerie. Not at all where you'd imagine leading the life of your dreams. After several decades, the eerie old castle turned into the gleaming in the center of Andre's kingdom. Changed from a depressing ruin to an amazing castle straight out of a fairy tale. Inside his Andre surrounded himself with Muric Castle, with the luxury that most of use exclusively available on Netflix. Consider his violin Stradivarius. This wasn't your average tool. Antonio made it. In 1692, Stradivari was created. Andre purchased it for an astounding $7 in 2018 to £1 million. Additionally, this was his third Stradivarius. Third, the initial one, his Stradivari's property, which was owned since 1667 early works, although it was difficult to play. Nevertheless, Andre rotated its recording and turning sound into gold with it, some of his best albums, possessing several multi-million-dollar violins. Andre loved more than just music. He was playing in a different league. Andre's extravagant way of living continued beyond tools. He assumed command of every aspect of his performances, including the attire worn by his orchestra. Those stunning dresses that his female Andre designed each one of the musicians, personally. Motivated by historical individuals such as Empress Elizabeth, of these outfits weren't for nothing. Austria, approximately $3,000 apiece, several times because each tour features dozens of musicians. When it becomes clear why Andriance had to deal with bankruptcy due to his stage designs. Yes, insolvency. Keep in mind that crazy stage design he made for his Vienna concerts from 2008. It was an exquisite replica of Schönbrunn Palace, furnished with actual ice rinks, fountains, dancers in gilded carriages, and lavish ballrooms. Sounds fantastic, correct? Epic, however, has a cost. Andre lost an incredible $34 million. Constructing it. He did more than simply construct one. He constructed 3 distinct sets, traveling the world with them, burning through money at an incredible pace. It was ostentatious, it was outstanding, but he almost died. In the end, Andre sat down, talking with his bank manager about things they could remove in order to resolve the massive debts. However, he managed to survive that emergency and recovered even more powerful. This man could not be stopped. Or was he? At home, everything appeared calm, cozy, even typical. At least as normal as living inside a real-life castle could ever be. Andre was married to since 1975. Marguerite has been with them, had 2 sons, Pierre and Marc. The castle was beautifully adorned with family photos, walls, reminiscences of simpler times when Andre was only getting started. But now even his family was crucial to his empire. The scripts were written by Marguerite for his performances, incorporating lyrics into the tunechas had an impact on millions worldwide. Their younger son Pierre took the initiative, hugely, taking up the role of vice president of Rieu Productions, Andre. Family meals could have appeared straightforward. Parties, but they were bored, disguised meetings, mixed business, during every meal with family. However, beneath all this glitzy way of life and delectable desserts, Andre's early years weren't exactly happy. Growing up in a tiny 5 siblings in a cramped house in an MRI wasn't simple. His father played in an orchestra. Conductor, but showed him little love. His mother is even more resilient. Andre thought they were envious of his inherent ability, as within weeks of at the age of 5, he began playing the violin exquisitely. He got away from the difficult times, the means of music. However, the wounds persisted, pushing him in the direction of more achievement, greater recognition, and more extravagant. That determination to prove himself was evident when Andre initially began. In 1978, he established his first group, only 12 musicians performing at local restaurants and weddings. The finances were tight. Almost no audiences observed them, occasionally without even glancing up from their meal. Andre nearly gave up. Music entirely, including making jokes about launching a pizzeria instead. Imagine Pizza Paganini being served by Andre Rieu, holding a violin at the table. However, fortunately, he stuck with millions of followers around the world, with tunes. In 1987, Andre made changes to his gang, producing the renowned Jan Orchestra Strauss. He held Johann in high regard. The first waltz king, Strauss, who demonstrated that musicians may be successful masterminds. 5 orchestras were owned by Strauss, sprinting at the same time. Andre made do with one enormous orchestra. Currently the biggest worldwide orchestras that are privately owned. They traveled all over, from crowded stadiums to throughout Europe to completely fill arenas Asia and America. Andre's accomplishment burst without warning during on a memorable football match in 1995. Ajax and Bayern Munich were playing in the final of the Champions League, and Andre shrewdly purchased a minute of live television coverage during halftime to highlight his music. Shortly before halftime, Ajax scored. The time was ideal. Millions of people watched Andre play Walt Nunu by Shostakovich live on television. He sold more than 200,000 the next week. CDs, immediately launching him from local musician to international celebrity. A timely football goal was altered. Everything for him. Success followed, greater aspirations. Andre spilt millions to create his concerts, which are the most amazing things that could happen. False snow, extravagant ball gowns, and balloon drops. Each and every. The show was a lavish celebration, here renowned for insisting on serving actual champagne while performing. Even despite not drinking it himself, he simply, in order to maintain authenticity, fans adored the spectacle. Critics' eyebrows went up, but Andre was unconcerned. He desired genuineness. No shortcuts, no acting out. In spite of all this luxury, Andre made the situation relatable. He gathered Tintin comics and educated himself Spanish by reading crime during lockdown literature, while still cherishing a basic toy truck from his early years. This vehicle wasn't merely a plaything. It served as a reminder of easier times when he and his sibling Robert used leftover wood to construct automobiles and dachshund wheels. However, Andre wasn't just any millionaire collector residing in the previous. His gaze was fixed intently on the future. His orchestra is larger than formerly, currently the biggest private Earth's orchestra. With 60 musicians, along with a horde of helpers, Andre had larger plans. Much larger. He wasn't content with holding the top spot in the world selling 40 or being a classical superstar million records. He aimed to accomplish something that had never been done by a musician previously. Andre desired to perform live on the moon. Yes, you heard correctly. The moon. Andre was not kidding. He even had a meaningful conversation with a billionaire, Richard Branson, regarding the construction of a hotel on the lunar surface. Branson, well known for his outrageous schemes, vowed to obtain it finished. And Andre, he had every intention of consider his enormous Jan Strauss orchestra up there to play, complete with instruments. The first space concert ever. It seemed insane until you recalled this, was the individual who created classical music, sell Metallica and Beyoncé. If anyone may bring about a lunar concert, it was Rieu Andre. However, how did Andre even attain this extraordinary degree of accomplishment and ambition? Well, in contrast to most traditional groups that depend on wealthy or educational, Andre constructed his orchestra with donors, all by himself. He had very little in his 80s, only a wild dream, along with a few musicians who'd faith in him. Andre took enormous chances from day one. Without any government or sponsor support, he invested all of his earnings, from record sales and ticket purchases, back into the orchestra. Running this today, he spent at least $1 on the big operation. Million each month, without even include the cost of touring. That implied every show had to be sold out. All of the albums have to be #1, if not, the entire situation would collapse in a single night. Andre retained roughly 110 persons who work for him on a permanent basis. From lighting technicians, to musicians, and additional 100 independent contractors that work as cooks, managed marketing, travel, and logistics. Globally, it was more than just a company. It was a family, his second family, one that journeyed around the world together. Massive stage setup and breakdown takes place in arenas ranging from Mexico City to Sydney. Every city needed 9 massive trucks loaded with costumes, lighting, equipment, instruments, and props. His crew worked continuously, frequently constructing the stage at 7 a.m. from scratch, then demolishing it immediately following the 3-hour concert ended at about midnight. Each performance seemed to the audience with wizardry. But behind the scenes, it was hard, rigorous work. Andre was a tight ship's captain. Not a rock star. Antics are permitted. Don't worry about crazy gatherings. Heist team took their own chefs on a trip to consume nutritious food. Andre himself napped prior to every performance in order to retain new. He was aware that one poor performance, a sleepless night, could harm his reputation, and incurred millions of dollars. Following each performance, Andre was determined to celebrate with his musicians. Not extravagant champagne parties, just nice wine and light conversation. This, for Andre, it was more than simply business. It was his interest in life. This unrelenting effort ethic paid off handsomely. Andre's record. The sales were amazing. Even in a time when internet and streaming music, his label, Universal Music, had previously collaborated with him for more than 20 years, and that the alliance yielded astounding outcomes. Andre sold over 40 in 20 years, millions of albums globally, figures typically only used by pop stars, not violinists. Additionally, in spite of forecasts that DVDs had died, but Andre's fans were still purchased millions of them annually, particularly those captured on camera during his renowned summer concerts in Maastricht. These performances are recorded annually, edited, them meticulously, and fans enthusiastically captured them, confirming Andre's suspicion that his listeners consistently favored a tangible item they might have in their hands. Andre was more than simply a fantastic performer. He was a talented entertainer who knew just what his supporters desired. He frequently created themed albums such as his well-known collection of film themes that featured huge tunes like My Heart Will Continue. Andre acknowledged that he hardly ever composed original music, choosing to take beloved classics and reorganize them, incorporating his own unique twist. This recipe was always successful. Every album fueled his empire by becoming a bestseller, and making certain that each musician and crew, each month, the member received payment on schedule. However, this level of achievement wasn't simple to keep up. Andre had to deal with tremendous pressure to maintain seat occupancy as well as selling records. Without contributors or sponsors, each choice he made had enormous dangers. He couldn't afford to take his time down even during a global pandemic. When concerts halted, Andre swapped gears, preparing pastries for his neighbors and community, maintaining his positive attitude and keeping in touch. He made use of the downtime to organize even more ambitious undertakings like his ambitious film screening honoring his 75th birthday in 2025. The Dream Goes On. The title event included previously shown songs from Andre's international tours performed in movie theaters all around the world. This was a large celebration of his life's achievements' amazing voyage. From a child's imagination in Maastricht to a worldwide figure that is revered by Andre never kept the secret from millions, underlying his remarkable ascent, diligence, self-control, and taking chances that no one else ventured. Edgar, his Jewish father-in-law man, had a profound impact on him through his 300 vinyl record collection, exposing Andre to music that he had never heard previously. These documents influenced his approach, resulting in his performances available to millions of people who never thought they would enjoy classical music. Works such as Hava Nagila, a J. Klezmer song, which became extremely popular in Andre's performances. His rendition of just this YouTube classic drew in more than 14 million views. Andre performed all over, including Israel, where he got standing ovations for their performance, popular regional tunes, such as Jerusalem of Gold. In spite of all of this achievement, Andre never forgot where he came from. He celebrated his 75th birthday in style, arranging a huge boat party that set sail through Maastricht, his hometown, with his whole orchestra aboard. Admirers Cinema brought people from all over the world together, screenings, taking in iconic performances from Andre's decades-long shows that will stick in your memory. Andre constructed something that no one believed was feasible. Enormous private orchestra. Globally, notoriety and a fortune so substantial that his family members who are anxious and proud